Hi there, my name is Kristen Kipfer, and today I'm going to be doing a video on the wrist, hip, and trunk movements. So essentially we're going to be analyzing the biomechanics of a tennis forehand using the sequence of images that were provided prior. So as I explain each movement, I'm going to be demonstrating the forehand motion and then the hip motions, all including the different muscles and actions that are involved. So let's get started. Okay, so starting out with the wrist. So between steps 4 and 6, the right wrist is moving from an extended position into a slightly flexed position as the racket is accelerating towards the ball. The primary muscles creating this movement are the flexor carpi radialis, the flexor carpi ulnaris, and the palmaris longus, which are all located on the front of the forearm. So these muscles are helping to bring the wrist forward and contribute to that racket head speed before the ball is making contact. Now, at the same time, the extensor carpi radialis, longus, and then also the extensor carpi radialis brevis, and then the extensor carpi ulnaris, located all on the backside of the forearm, are contracting eccentrically. And these muscles are acting like the brakes. They're controlling the speed of the wrist, the movement, and helping to stabilize the wrist during the impact with the ball. Alright, so now we're going to be moving on into the pelvis, the trunk, and then also the spine motion. So between steps 2 and 8, the pelvis is essentially rotating towards the left as the player is swinging through the ball and following through. Now, this motion is occurring in the transverse plane, which is about cut right here, when the plane is responsible for rotational movements. So essentially, the pelvic rotation is extremely important because the power in your tennis forehand is starting with that ground movement and going upward through the body. Rotating the pelvis helps to transfer that energy from the legs into the trunk and then into the arm and the racket. So the primary interior trunk muscles located are the left external obliques and then the right internal obliques. So essentially you're controlling the movement and pulling through. Now these muscles are both working together to rotate the trunk toward the ball, and they're helping to generate that rotational force, which is increasing the power of the forehand. And then also lastly, just to note, the transverse abdominis is also wrapping around the race, and this is also playing an important stabilization role. So now we're moving on to the hip motion. So essentially between steps 5 and 7, the primary motion of the hip is hip extension. Now, hip extension is extremely important because it's helping to generate that force from the lower body and transfer that force up through the trunk, in through the arm, and to the racket to hit the ball. This contributes to both the power and the stability of how hard they're going to hit the ball in the tennis. So now the major muscles that are producing the hip extension are the gluteus maximus and then the hamstring muscles, which includes the biceps femoris, the semitendinosus, and the semimembranosus. Now these muscles are contracting concentrically as they're shortening to drive the hips forward and help create that explosive movement through the ball. Now, at the same time, the muscles on the front of the hip are lengthening to allow this motion to occur. So these muscles include the iliacus, the psoas major, along with the rectus femoris. Now, as the hips extend and swing and fall through, these hip flexor muscles are lengthening to provide stability during the swing. So now for the one whole body exercise that I would recommend to improve your personal tennis swing would be a medicine ball rotational throw. So essentially you would take a medicine ball, I don't have one, but this is my pillow. Essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be closely mimicking the forehand because it's going to be training your legs along with your hips, your core, and your upper body to all work together and produce that kinetic chain movement like we talked about before. So essentially what you would do is you place your feet about shoulder width apart, bend down, get your legs in a ready position, place the ball on your opposite side, and you're just going to extend and power through. This kind of mimics that tennis swing, pushing through the ball. Thank you for watching.